We have like a familiar discussion to talk about today in execution. There's a new mechanic that they announced. Guile's legendary Sonic Boom has additional properties in Street Fighter 6. When inputted with perfect timing, Guile's signature move now becomes even more boom-tastic. This is his regular boom. And then as you can see, there's a faster one that's red. You can see here he does crouching medium punch, Sonic Boom, crouching jab does not combo. With the perfect boom, he gets crouching jab 2 combo, and then that lets him get flash kick after. You see that? It's pretty cool. This is a pretty cool idea. Right now, we don't know exactly how this works. We just know that he has the ability to do it. And people have theorized that it's like hitting forward plus punch at the same time, or it could be a charge thing. I didn't think it was gonna be that big of a deal, but there was a lot of people who were really frustrated seeing this. They're like, oh my God, you're adding execution requirements to this, and that, and the character's more difficult because of this. And like, there's simultaneously 2 things happening, right? On one hand, people are fucking pissed that there's a mode in the game that lowers execution, that makes it easy to do special moves. On the other hand, people are fucking pissed that there is something in the game that requires more execution. But the reality is that it's okay. Like, these modes exist for both of you. A lot of people, I think especially people who don't play fighting games, were really upset about this idea because they were like, ugh, I just want to get into the strategy of fighting games. That sentence alone, I think it just shows you that there is a large misunderstanding of the genre. Part of the strategy of fighting games is deciding what you want to do and what things you want to be better or worse at, and what things you care to spend time investing in and improving at. Execution, what you are able to do and what you choose to do in terms of your combo routing, is part of the strategy of fighting games, right? And it is an interesting part of the strategy of fighting games that really has a lot of impact at basically every level of play, right? I'm sure a lot of you have played fighting games, and even at not a high level, you run into somebody who's like, their offense and their combos are like the sickest combos you've ever seen. Their execution is out of control. But then they're really weak at defense, or they're really weak at neutral, or they're really weak at some aspect of the game that you can take advantage of. That person has improved at one pillar of the game. So their strategy is focused on this execution. This is what they've chosen to improve at. You maybe have gotten good at the basics, or neutral, or playing defensively, or whatever it is, right? I've played many people who do executionally incredible things that are my skill level, and then they do other stuff that's just fucking stupid. You're like, oh. There's a saying about this in shooting games: all aim, no brain. It's when someone is an execution wizard, but they have nothing else is in there. There's a lot of fighting game players that are like that. They can do really executionally impressive things, but then their decision making or everything else is really bad. And the cool thing about this game and any fighting game is that if you decide, I can't do these perfect booms, I'm not very good at them. Like, maybe I get them 5 out of 10 times or something when I try to do them, and that's not enough. Maybe you get them 3 out of 10 times, right? Whatever it is. You're like, that's not enough. I'm just not going to try it in the heat of the moment. I'll try it in neutral, and if I throw a sick boom, sure. And if I don't, then, you know, it's not the end of the world. And you can play Guile in that way, and I'm sure you can play Guile in that way to a lot of success. Somebody already brought him up in the chat, but Justin Wong does the worst combos ever all the time. He'll tell you himself his execution is not great, and has won, I think, the most Evos out of anybody, right? And is an incredibly good fighting game player. Has whack combos and execution. Every time I watch him play, he like never goes for the hard combos. He never goes for the super difficult punishes or anything like that. He just does the easy things like 99% of the time. Kazunoko, who I'm sure a lot of you know, incredibly successful fighting game player. Kazunoko's combos usually suck. He usually does not do anything close to optimal in a lot of scenarios for a bunch of the games he plays. He does things that are simple and effective and get the job done. You just saw Punk over at Combo Breaker playing to try to get in a top 8 of Guilty Gear Strive, doing the worst combos we've ever seen. He doesn't know them. And he's playing in a competitive environment in the most stacked offline tournament we've had for the video game so far. I play Gold Lewis in Guilty Gear Strive. I cannot running Behemoth Typhoon. I cannot do running 862 or 842. I practice a little bit and I'm just unable to do it. I can't. And then other people do it. And it's an aspect of the game that they can use and they can strategize around because they have the robot devil hands and I don't have it. So I play the game and I strategize without having it. That's it. I just don't do it. And I'm still top 4 in the ratings for Gold Lewis. I think people think of execution and they get upset because they think if I don't have the ability to execute, I'm not playing Street Fighter correctly. I'm not getting into the strategy of the game. But Having things you can and can't execute in the game influence what kind of decisions you make, what kind of characters you pick, influence what kind of combo routing you choose to do. That is the strategy of the game. And if this is not something you care about, then you don't have to do it. If you want to then have something long-term to improve at, then maximizing and practicing how consistently you can hit these fancy booms are a great way to improve that and give you access to new things. If you're worried about not doing something right by doing the best thing all the time always, I think you misunderstand fighting games to the level that, it's hard to tell you how much that doesn't matter. Everybody makes mistakes in every match of every fighting game they play. Even in this example, Guile, and let's say he lands a jump in and he wants to choose what combo he's gonna go for. If you're in tournament, and you're playing for $100 billion, you have a choice. You could go for crouching medium punch right into flash kick. It's the safe, easy, what we call tournament combos. These are things that even the best players in the world choose to do. This combo is harder to do, but is more rewarding. And you might go for this, right? But when, money's on the line and it's the last moment of some tournament, you might not want to try this perfect thing, because if you miss it, you could lose the whole event. This could cost you a lot. Characters that are very good in tournament generally tend to be less complicated and generally tend to have more straightforward strategies to execute, straightforward execution in terms of their combos and other stuff when you're playing in a stressful environment where people make mistakes all the time. I also don't expect that this is going to be that hard. Watching the footage and seeing them doing it multiple times in a row, I don't think any of them are Guile mains, and they did the hard boom a lot, then I think they'll be okay. Okay, great comment. Yeah, but that's not a completely arbitrary execution check in a BNB. Why is it the BNB? If you're unable to execute it, if it's too hard for you to do, then it's not the BNB. You do a different combo. And not only that, this is not an arbitrary execution thing. They didn't decide this like, oh, wouldn't it be just the worst shit in the world if this thing existed? Haha, let's make this dumb. They added it to give the character more options with what his moveset is. Guile has a very limited moveset in Street Fighter, right? So to increase the long-term interest in the character and give him options that are not just be better at throwing booms, be better at whiff punishing, be better at neutral. They gave him an option for players who, at a high level, want to really push the character to his extreme. This is another aspect of the character they can choose to invest time in and improve at, right? And if that's not you and you're just playing, it doesn't have to matter for you. I watch competitive Valorant. There's a thing called lineups. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of this, right? When you plant the bomb, somebody stands back at the other side of the map and they shoot what is essentially like a Molotov at the bomb, and it just burns on the bomb, and they can't defuse it, and you're incredibly safe because you're like across the map. I have watched professional teams at like the biggest tournament not have lineups. And you could just look them up on YouTube, follow it, and you stand in a spot and you aim at a pixel and you shoot the thing and you're good, right? I've also watched people in competitive play miss lineups, just like they have the lineup and they try to do it and they just fucking miss it and it loses rounds or games or whatever, right? And my point is, you don't think to yourself, I cannot play this shooting game because I don't know how to stand back there and do lineups to hit default on Icebox with Viper. I'm unable to play the game. That would never cross your mind. You just play the shooting game and you have a good time. If you can't do lineups in Valorant, it's not like the game is execution testing you and it's arbitrary or whatever, right? You can just make a conscious choice not to do it. Instead of standing back there and missing lineups, you could just stand there and shoot people who go try to defuse the bomb. Nobody is playing the full game if that is the way you think about it. Nobody is able to execute everything all the time, always. Even in games with easy execution, they make mistakes constantly. You're not missing out on playing Street Fighter by not knowing how to do this. All you're missing out on is an aspect of the character, and you can strategize around this if you'd like. And also the nice thing is you can choose to do different things that are not just this. The reason that fighting games are fun is that they are fast and they test so many aspects of you as a person at the same time. Your offense, your defense, your movement, your whip punishing, your strategy of approaching the matchup, your matchup knowledge is one, your execution is one, right? Like there are all these different skill sets that exist in a fighting game, and you're not going to be maxed out on all of them, right? You will have to pick and choose which things you try to improve at, and some things you'll be naturally worse than others at. A good example, for instance, is if your reactions are not great. Some people just have bad reactions. You guys know Jonathan Tennant, he's a zoomer. He's like, yeah, my reaction time is bad. And so because my reaction time is bad, I just fuzzy on defense all the time. I don't try to react to shit. He built a strategy around his downsides, right? And similarly, if there are things you cannot execute, you will build a strategy around not doing these things. That is part of the game. That is part of the aspects of fighting games. No fighting game player is perfect, and no fighting game player does the perfect thing all the time, always. If you notice your opponent is unable to punish something with a very hard punish, they do small combos, or they don't do it something that's more damaging, you take advantage of that, correct? Part of your strategy will adjust to what they can or cannot do. You know that Evo where Punk had to play Tokido in the finals in 2017? Before his match, he was like, I'm really nervous. I don't know what to do. And I said, Tokido can't anti-air in the clutch. And you know what Punk did to Tokido? He fucking jumped at Tokido, and in the clutch, Tokido didn't anti-air him for shit. That was like the understood weakness of Tokido, was that he was bad at anti-airing in the clutch. As an FGC casual, the execution barrier is only a problem because I frequently get matched with players way above my skill level. Missing combos is fine when your opponent isn't linking 30 seconds of one frame planks. I promise you're not playing a game where your opponent's linking 30 seconds of one frame planks. You might not realize that. Maybe you don't understand exactly what you're getting hit by or whatever's happening or whatever. But that whole thing doesn't matter because of the very first thing you said, correct? If I was going to go play pickup basketball and LeBron James was there and was like, man, my team fucking sucks. We're not going to win a championship this year. And then LeBron James just fucking dunked on me and broke my back, I probably also wouldn't think basketball is fun. That's an issue with matchmaking if you're playing people who are much better than you. And the people who are much better than you probably aren't doing 31 frame planks. They're probably just like doing normal stuff that's not that hard, but it just looks really hard. And people at your skill level will also probably do hard things too. I learned Guile, and the only thing I learned was how to do his most difficult combo. Because he had the sonic boom loops, and because I saw them and was like, oh man, those combos look tight, which was like the hardest combo in the game at the time. And my Guile was fucking awful. A lot of people got into fighting games or get into fighting games because of that, right? They like see something that's hard or something that's cool and they're like, yo, I want to try that. Have you ever watched somebody try to guess someone's rank in another game? You watch it and you're like, oh man, he just did this sick B&B, but then he can't do a meaty. Everybody has different levels of what their expertise is. Anyway, I didn't pull up a reset era thread because I heard there was 2, and I didn't pull up any of the Reddit threads about the new booms or whatever because I feel like I don't want to read them and dunk on anybody because I don't care. And I'm sure if I read it, it would make me annoyed. And I'd rather just discuss it than read bad threads. I could just guess what the kinds of replies and things about the game are because we've seen it so many times. Open up a thread so you can read people telling you all you FGC people are the same. You won't listen to our same bad faith arguments you've actually listened to for the last 20 years. That's the problem, is like every time one of my videos about fighting games gets posted somewhere, it's always like the comments in like Reddit or Reset Era or whatever it ends up do not talk about anything I made in the video at all. Instead of watching the video, they don't watch the video. And then they say, this is what I think about fighting games and why I don't like them as somebody who doesn't play them. And then I'm like, well, you know, I talked about this in the video. And they're like, yeah, well, whatever. You don't listen to me, see? And I'm like, you read the title of my video and then you replied without even thinking for a moment that perhaps I have thought about people who don't play fighting games, or that I had talked about the very thing you covered in the thing, or that I make content for real humans who play fighting games. I do not make or help people who don't give a fuck about the genre and don't play it and think I care about your opinion. I don't, is where I'm at now. I used to try to listen, and I still do, but I don't care if you don't play the game. I've tried to tell you why what you are typing is not quite correct, and then you just don't care. You're like, nope, fighting games are like this, this, and that. I play shooting games that are real easy. And I'm like, dude, but you don't understand the fighting game genre because you probably haven't played. And they're like, no. I play everything too. The other thing is I play everything. I play shooting games, MOBAs, I play BRs, I play card games. I follow the competitive scene for lots of other games, and I've seen what people complain about in all those other genres. It's the same shit. You've been typing that shit for like 20 years and no one gives a fuck. If you don't want to play the genre, it's fine with me. Just say that. Doing whippets with Chun-Li. Is that what Street Fighter 6's story is about? I might have to learn the lore. It sucks to lose no matter what you play. So yeah, losing in fighting games sucks, but it also sucks to lose in everything. Yeah, at least losing in this game is fast. That's true. It doesn't take you fucking 20 minutes and some guy won't surrender because he's like, guys, this is my promo. I know it's 8 to 25, but this is my promo, guys. We win the late game. You're looking at your comp and you're like, we do not win the late game. We don't win any part of this game. This shit has not been winnable since fucking Champion Select.